give us the wisdom to make the proper choices for our town. We want to make this a better place to live. We want your wisdom, your support, and we want to please you. Be with us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have citizen comments right now. James Canby.
I live at 231 Brewster Street. I don't know if any of y'all been watching TV or not. The History Channel, they have a documentary on there talking about sinkholes. Patrick and Mr. Blackwell and the guy from Enchanted came up Wednesday. What we were having going on up there on Fuller Street, Brewster Street. What it is, I showed Patrick 2 holes where the storm drain stopped up, and it's not doing it. It was causing the water to go up underneath the ground and coming out in our backyard, and it's causing the pole. And I was Brian was talking about it, and then Patrick said that him and the guy from Enchanted, where they gonna split it. One of them's gonna do so much, and the other's gonna be, and the town's gonna do so much. And what my problem is, how long is it gonna take? We've been dealing with this for 4 years, and I think it's about time within the next 2 months that this should be took care of, instead of waiting 6, a year, nothing else. And to me, that's exactly what needs to be done. So I'm asking this council to work with Patrick on this and go ahead and get something done and get started on this. Because I don't want to see a sinkhole up there. Because there's a power station out there beside us. And that power station is right where this water's going. Also, not just our yard, it's going to the power station too. So it needs to be something done within the next 2 months. And I thank Patrick and Mr. Blackwell and the guy from Enchanted for coming up and looking at this Wednesday. And got Keith out there, he also talked to them too. So this is what I said, this just needs to be addressed big time. And I appreciate y'all listening to me. And y'all have a good evening.
Thank you. Kim Burrow.
Good evening, my name's Tim Burrow, 1230 Cleveland Street here in the village. Reason I'm up here for you today is we know, and you know, small towns are really under attack by builders. I just noticed the 2 new builds, up here within the village. In my opinion, those 2 houses squeezed together shouldn't ever happen. And my concern is with the vacant lots here and people that are buying lots to build housing, what are we going to allow them to do? Put 3 houses on a lot that only holds 1? That's a big concern to me. Everybody don't want to live jam-packed tight, neighbor right 2 foot away from neighbor. I like a little space, and we used to have a historical status here in our community, but somehow we lost that, and I think we lost some codes that People are not coming, to the town of Packard. They go to Spartanburg and get their permits, or they bypass. I don't understand how these two houses got built when y'all didn't know nothing about it. What are we going to do, and how are we going to control, such building? I don't want to live jammed up on, my next door neighbor. If somebody buys, these vacant lots and builds houses like they're in subdivisions. That's a concern of mine. And I do appreciate that y'all listen to them, but we need to address something. You know, small towns are disappearing. If you look at Landrum, they're building in Landrum as we speak. Landrum would be no longer a small town. And they'll consume us too. You know, I understand growth is, you know, it's going to be, but overcrowded growth is just, it's not good. It's not good at all.
Thank you. Until Williamson.
Hello. I just wanted to take the time to say hello, introduce myself. I'm Chantel Lemons. Just give you a face with my name. I'm sure you all are familiar with the grievance I've had and things that are going on. I'm not here to reiterate that. But I have been watching, I've been listening to the meetings, and you all are aware of the concerns that are coming in as far as buildings and things we're hearing about even tonight. So I have an intention to be part of your planning commission, if you all see it fit that I am on there. And something I would like to let you all know is that my intention there is to serve. I would like very much to have you all utilize me to help in this growth process. I'm glad to research things. I'm glad to write things and collect information in any way that I can so that we can move forward and find a way to balance this growth with bringing all of our stuff up to date, if that makes sense, to be in line with the protection of the small town, as well as having a direct department for that stuff and people to be able to have their questions answered through there. And I'm also gonna ask you all to really consider appeals on the building code thing. Okay, so from what I'm seeing, it's at the discretion of the town and RCI. And I think that that is a little bit of a conflict of interest for the fact that both the town and RCI are profiting off of the fees and fines. And you don't want to be told that something's unfair. So if you have a board of appeals for that department, then they can bring that to somebody that doesn't have a vested interest in that kind of revenue, that can give opinions outside of that. So I'm not sure if that's something in process, but I would really ask you all to consider that. That is a standard when you have a building code permitting and department.
My name is spelled incorrectly.
Okay.
Oh, January 4th.
On January 4th, 2024.
Which section is that?
The very first. The top. The top one.
Where is it?
I'll motion that we approve him with the edit.
Yes, it should be Starnika Wofford, spelled W-O-F-F-O-R-D. Any questions? Need a second. Anybody have any problem with that?
No, I second.
Motion made and second to approve the minutes as corrected to January 4th, 2024. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, January 16th, I need approval of minutes, January 16th, 2024.
Motion we approve January 16th, 2024 minutes. I'll second.
Motion made and second to approve the minutes of January 16th, 2024. Any questions, any corrections?
The only thing I saw was it lacked the citizens' comments.
What was it?
Title of the citizens' comments.
Title of the citizen comment wasn't on there.
I make a motion we approve it with that edit.
Is that be all right? That's right? So that, Craig get to that? Is it okay?
Yeah, I'll
Yeah. Okay.
give my notes to Tony again.
Okay. All right.
What he's talking about is citizens' comment wasn't on the agenda, but council gave permission to a
Right,
couple
yeah.
people to do.
All right.
It wasn't on there.
Okay. All right. Motion made and seconded to approve those as corrected. Any questions? All in favor? All opposed? Okay, we'll move on to the presentation by RICI. Rocky.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mayor and council. I requested to speak tonight considering the president of Enchanted Homes, Mr. Aaron Aho, spoke at the last meeting. He provided you with information that was not accurate and a bit skewed. Permit fees in Spartanburg versus permit fees in Akron. This council and the public deserves factual information. I've provided you with a few pieces of paper there. One is the actual permit from Spartanburg tonight's meeting. He further stated that he was invited to this special called meeting the other evening in a premeditated attempt to bring to heel the inspection agency known as RCI and suppress inspections in this town. The intended representative made an concerted effort to be present and stand before you as a council to misinform and support this fictitious agenda. At yesterday's meeting with the president of Enchanted Homes, Mr. Aaron Aho, we had the most unexpected turn of events, an unusual encounter. A confession, if you will. He admitted his wrongful actions and delivered evidence to include names and forthcoming emails of those that colluded and conspired to professionally orchestrate and deliberately slander, defame, and unapologetically make a mockery of myself, my employees, and RCI as a whole, with reckless disregard for their damaging actions in an attempt to undermine the moral fiber and professional standards upheld by RCI. He stated he felt the wrongful weight of his actions due in part to his participation in this atrocity. He further stated that he knew better than to take part and allow them and those in positions of power to use him in such a degrading and nefarious way. In the presence of our administrator, Mr. Patrick Kay, he sincerely apologized to me and this town for the role he played. This may seem a bit odd with the understanding that I, myself, was the target of this atrocious conspiracy. I ask you to not condemn this man or the company he represents. I have an unbridled respect for a man that can admit wrong and make amends of his ways. I was told early in my career by those that appear prestigious and successful in the construction industry that I must learn to play the game and join the winning team. I asked, if we are winning, who is losing? The young family buying the first dream home, our children, our grandchildren. I don't define winning as winning when it involves taking advantage of others. I silently applaud those of you who have not wavered with the continued support of this building code program. I implore others to seek the facts and avoid the pitfalls of what only appears as right. We have always advocated for common ground between the designers, developers, builders, consumers, and end users. We cannot advocate or take part in anything that lends to inferior or substandard construction practices. We owe the public better. We owe this town better. We will always act in a professional manner in our execution and carrying out the duties of this office as the building official, and accept and defend against whatever form of torment, fabricated lies, and verbal bashings that may come by whomever talks or walks through these doors, as we are sworn as government servants to protect the public in the built environment, and we will continue to bear this cross with honor. Can I answer any questions?
Anybody have any questions? Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, John.
Okay, old business, consider an ordinance for the establishment of historic and architectural review board.
Yes, Council, at the last couple of meetings, we have been discussing the establishment of a historic architectural review board. At one of the last meetings, it was discussed to bring Brad Sauls, who is the state historic president from the the State Historic Preservation Office, who specializes in these local historic districts, to get some information directly from him, so we know the facts of what is to be considered. So Mr. Sauls is here, and is I included in your packet what has been proposed in January, and then also he had me add some stuff on there. There's some Q&A in terms of what historic districts are and what they are not, as defined by the State Historic Preservation Office. But I'm going to invite Mr. Sauls to come up here so that y'all can ask him any questions you'd like as it relates to the historic district and the passage of the historic district guidelines for this town of Packer.
Thank you, and good evening. Again, my name is Brad Sauls. I'm with the South Carolina Department of Archives and History and the State Historic Preservation Office. It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight, and I'm happy to try to answer any questions I can. One of my job duties is to assist local governments with their historic preservation programs in terms of their ordinance and other related things. So if there's anything I can try to answer for you, I'm happy to try to do that.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of a board that dealt strictly with new construction versus one that reviewed existing homes?
I'm sure it varies from place to place. I mean, the ones that I'm familiar working with, commonly a Board of Architecture review or just local historic review board would be reviewing projects going on with existing properties in designated areas, but can also review new construction within those areas for appropriateness within the overall historic overlay. So I've seen it's not uncommon for local boards to be reviewing both work on existing projects and new construction, or existing properties and new construction in those designated historic areas.
So it's, in your opinion, it's fairly unheard of that they would make that designation that they're just going to review newly constructed homes. Is it possible? What would be the pitfalls if we went that route?
Yeah, I think the board can, local government can set up any kind of board they want to under the appropriate state enabling legislation. I deal particularly with the state enabling legislation that deals with generically a Board of Architecture review. Charleston calls it that, other places call it other things, Design Development Review Committee, Historic Landmarks Commission. There's different names, but generically that would be the Board of Architecture review, and what they're dealing with is proposals for work that are within their designated historic areas or even individually designated landmarks. I know there are boards that also appropriately review infill construction within their designated historic areas, but not necessarily reviewing exclusively one type of project or the other.
So my concern is that we do this in phases. My concern is that Packlet's not quite ready to start dictating what people do with their existing homes. I think we could get there. I wouldn't oppose having enforceable guidelines for infill or new construction. So to follow up, have you ever seen a board that was strictly advisory, that was set up by ordinance and actually had a manned personnel that didn't have powers to enforce their?
I don't know of any particular specific example of a board that is set up under the state enabling legislation for Board of Architecture review. I don't know of anywhere it's strictly advisory or strictly voluntary. Again, local ordinances can vary, and we're not advised on every ordinance in the state that's adopted. I know about the ones that are within our certified local government program and others outside of that as well that are dealing specifically with, again, generically Board of Architecture review. But I mean, I think there are communities that have, they may be set up under different enabling legislation, but that deal in designated zones, may deal with commercial, new construction in a commercial zone, or dealing with signage, or dealing with new construction in designated areas, and they may have a design review board that's not strictly speaking under the Board of Architecture Review state enabling legislation, but again, I think it varies, just a lot community to community what they decide to put in place.
So, in your opinion, you've looked at this proposed ordinance, right?
I did see this this evening. Yes.
In your opinion, with references to South Carolina Code, Chapter 29, Title 6, this would not be an advisory board. Is that? They would have all the powers to enforce guidelines.
It's what you put in your ordinance. The state enabling legislation is, South Carolina's state enabling legislation is pretty short and sweet compared to some other states. And I think like North Carolina's probably runs off several pages, and South Carolina's is a couple paragraphs, and basically says this is a thing you can do, and carry on if you decide to do it. It doesn't really get much more prescriptive. I mean, the state enabling legislation does say that by means of specific provision for the preservation and protection of historic and architecturally valuable districts and neighborhoods, by means of restriction and conditions governing the right to erect, demolish, remove, and whole or in part or alter the exterior appearance of all buildings or structures within the areas. So that's from the state enabling legislation that says local governments may, can, if they want to, create a board that does those things, if they choose to do that. Of course, every community is a little bit different in terms of what's their priorities for what they want the board to review. They may have very broad design guidelines. Others may have more specific guidelines depending on again what kind of process they've gone through with public input and public information about what is community priority, what do we want to do, what do we want to accomplish with this.
Right. So I guess my question was, as this sits now, as we've written this, referencing state law and all the power given by that state law, this would give us powers that were enforceable and binding the way it's written now. This is not, the way it's written is not an advisory board, I guess is my question, in your opinion. Is that?
I mean, it seems to be, but also at least this, what I'm seeing, this draft that's in your packet tonight, it doesn't have all the things that I typically see. Like we have a sample ordinance that we post that's for information, and there are some other sort of common things we would expect to see in a local BAR type ordinance that deals with the processes for how the board runs meetings, how they're supposed to how they deal with applications, what their designation process, what their review process is, what the appeals process is, if they have a hardship clause or not, how to deal with appeals to decisions, if there's going to be staff review on something, board review on something. So there's a lot more, potentially more sections you could have in here, I think, to have a more complete, sort of typical best practices kind of preservation order. I think there's some things you could add to it, but there's some, at minimum, there's things missing about designation process and appeals process, among other things that I think could be added. This draft order looks like it's a good start. I think there's some other things you could add in there to be more complete.
How does infill, the change of the structure and the change of the square footage of homes, that kind of deal that's altering the historic, how does that change the historic district? Does it impair the district, and over time does it, how does it hurt the district? How is that viewed?
Well, first we're potentially dealing with two types of historic districts that can overlap on the same place on the map. I know that PACLET has individual properties that are listed in the National Register of Historic Places, and there's a district that's listed in the National Register. I think it's primarily the village housing historically. So that designation in and of itself is an honorific designation. Primarily it incentivizes preservation. It doesn't limit what property owners do. Their property doesn't put any regulation or restriction on them. It's honorific and incentivizes preservation. We have tax credit programs that are associated with that status, potentially the owners could opt in to use. So now with districts or even individually listed properties in the National Register, we don't have the ability to police all 1,500 listings in South Carolina at all times, but it is possible for a district or a property to sort of lose its integrity over time by way of changes or alterations or demolition. There's no magic formula for, particularly like in a district, if you have demolitions, if you lose properties over time. One house being gone is not going to affect the listed status of it. 2 or 3 more is not going to affect it, but over time, if eventually you lose a lot of those historic houses and they're either just going to vacant lots or new things come in to replace them, you could potentially slowly erode the status of that district, but we don't have the ability, it's not a priority for us to go in and actively police all the listings in the state, but if we had a reason to review something programmatically, it could potentially get to a point where, all right, we're looking at this district for a grant project or tax incentive or something, it looks like it's 3/4 of it is gone, it may not be eligible for listing anymore. And we could potentially, and we do remove things from the register, but that's pretty far down the priority list for us, and we would just have removals from the register when the property's no longer there, which burn down, because again, that listing status doesn't require preservation, but it is a local preservation ordinance that can have the ability to have more sort of protective coverage for historic properties, whereas the National Register is honorific and incentivizes preservation. A local ordinance can do a bit more to have teeth, so to speak, in order to try to require preservation to a certain extent, at least on the exteriors of the designated properties.
You said that the ordinance that we had here, we probably needed to add a few things to complete it.
I would recommend it. Again, we've got a sample ordinance that you can use, and we can provide examples from other communities as well. And there's no one correct ordinance. And we provide a sample one as sort of a starting point. But there are some basic things that if we're looking at ordinances that we would kind of we could provide you with sort of what would be our checklist for a good preservation ordinance, the things to have in it. And sample wording, I'm happy to provide that to you as a guide for if you want to look at what you want to maybe add to it. There are some things in here that it would be good to have, particularly as addressing due process issues as far as appeals and what your process is for reviewing applications, designations, that sort of thing.
I think that'd be helpful. Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, be glad to.
Any other questions?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do we need a motion to move on and table this until further review?
I think if we just considered it, we're not, we haven't got a, we wouldn't have a reading of it or anything.
All right.
We just considered it. Okay, back up.
Consider 2 appointments on the planning commission. Since the last time we discussed this, or council discussed this, at that time there were 2 positions at one who had not responded to us at all in terms of their intent to stay or go. At that time, and I'll say the person's name, Kim Easler, at the time that we had originally spoken, had requested to resign. She has come back and stated that she would like to stay on the planning commission board and has taken the training. And so she is ready and she would like to be reappointed back onto the planning commission board if you'll have her there. The other position on there is Mr. Frady, who has not responded to any of our comments or requests to take the training class on there. So council would have to remove the individual and then vote for a new person to be on that, on the board there.
Patrick, who was the first person?
Kim Easler, she sent me a message and asked to resign. She since then has changed her mind. She had some stuff going on with her family, and has since then that has rectified, or she'd like to be involved, and so she can devote the time to it. And she asked about taking the training, and I suggested if you're really interested in staying on, you might want to go ahead and take the training, and she did. So she's fully ready to be on there, and she has taken the training.
She had a death in the family right around Christmas, so it was a pretty rough time for her.
For planning commission, it will be a nomination and vote. For board of zoning appeals, it is just nomination.
We want to consider Kim Eastler then. Anybody have any objection? Anybody?
You appointed her, or
Yeah,
asked,
sure.
are you good with keeping her on there, or would you have to ask anybody
Oh,
different?
no, I had, but I would have to get with those individuals.
You said you've got someone else who's interested in being on this?
I have asked a couple of people who really have not gotten back to me, and I didn't know if there was, where a deadline was, or if there is a deadline.
At the time, the last time I spoke to you, Ms. Easler and Mr. Frady is technically still on there, although it's required that he takes training within a year of being on the board. Mr. Frady has not, and has not reached out and responded to us saying that he intends on taking the training on there. But Ms. Easler is in, I think originally was nominated from your district.
Right, yes.
On there. But like we mentioned before, you don't have to go by district. It is not a requirement. That is just something that y'all have been doing in the past, but there's nothing in the zoning ordinance that requires each one person from each of the districts.
I understand that, but Mayor said last meeting that we would keep it as in the district as it has been, even though it's not required.
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, you did say,
You currently have, I believe you may have another person, because I think Mr. Don Kennedy
Yeah,
lives at 130 Elizabeth Street, which I think is also in your district.
yeah.
so, well, can I come back with you because,
That's up to council.
How long, I mean, what, I mean,
The only thing is if the longer you go, so for instance, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people that actually attend on there, or 5 people that are actually on the board, so you'll actually have to have 4 of the 5 attend every single time to make sure that you've got quorum on there.
well, I wasn't aware of this till tonight, so, I mean, it's short notice for me. I'm not aware.
This was actually from last month's agenda.
Right, but the packet that you sent out, I think her name was on it.
Right, her name was not on it at the time, and she has come back, and she, as of right now, because of the fact that she did resign, she is off the board.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, I didn't know she was coming
Okay.
back. That's what I'm saying is news to me. I did not know she was coming back.
Sure.
So I need the opportunity to speak with the people I've already spoken to.
Sure.
In all fairness.
There's the other member, Mr. Frady, has not responded to us.
Yeah, I appointed him, so I'll make the motion to remove him from the planning commission.
Okay.
If I can get somebody to second that motion.
And I'm
Also-
fine with Ms. Easler, it's just that I would rather give the other people that I've already spoken with.
Sure.
We're gonna,
There was a motion on the floor.
we had a motion and a second to remove Mr. Frady.
I second the motion.
What, he already.
Oh, you did, I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
Right. Any questions on that? All in favor? Okay, we did that.
So then you'll have another position to put on there, if you wanna have a representative from District 1, One other thing that I wanted to bring up and let y'all know about, on our website, there's a section on there where people can request to be on boards. And we have, and I don't know where these people live, but Scott DeLorme was interested in being on both the Planning Commission and the Board of Zoning Appeals. And Matthew Williams was interested in being on the Planning Commission. I do not know where they live, or if they live in the town of Packlet. I just know that they expressed interest on our website they'd like to be on.
So they expressed interest on the website, and, when did they express interest? How long ago?
It's been a while this is on there, because the board's been full, and so there was no interest or no reason to have them on there. But
Do we as council members get updates from requests or comments or anything of that sort?
I can give that to you if y'all would like that, every time
That would be
someone comes
wonderful.
through.
You know, if somebody's requesting to be on a board and we appoint them, then I would like that information.
Sure.
Okay, the planning commission here, we need to have that full, because we having meetings on this, and then when the planning commission is supposed to come back to us, by when?
Well, the planning commission is important right now only because you're in the process of the comp plan.
Right.
And when, before council approves comp plan, the planning commission has to review it. Also, and I will just remind you, nothing, you know, Miss Easler had been appointed to the steering committee board, for the plan packet on there. So if she is not on there and someone else gets replaced, then we'll have to find somebody else from the planning commission to replace her on the plan packet steering committee.
Do you have a nomination in mind, Mr. Wright, that we can vote on? Just get
Yeah, I was gonna nominate Chantel Lemons if she's still interested.
I'll second that. Let's get this filled.
Go ahead and get it filled,
Yeah.
so we can go ahead and move on.
Because when's our master plans? I mean, a month or two?
We're gonna see how the next steering committee meeting goes in February 22nd. I don't know,
Yeah. I mean, Ms. Sexton, it's totally up to you, but like, I'd love to have the boards filled.
I would like to have the opportunity to speak to people, so this is.
Could you have it back to us by the next meeting? All right, motion made and second to, appoint, Ms. Chantel Lemon. Any questions, any comments? All in favor? All opposed, okay?
the next item on there.
I wanted to point something out real quick. The last steering committee meeting we had, there was 4 of the planning commission members supposed to be at the meeting. There must be an agenda, because that would constitute a quorum. That would be a board, and so if 4 members actually show up for that, you would need to have some agenda notifying the public that 4 members of that committee or board are going to be there. Just keep that in mind.
Sure.
Okay. Zoning appeals.
The Board of Zoning Appeals, there's one individual who has not taken the training, and it's been more than a year. I've reached out to this individual. Twice, and this person has not responded back to me saying they intend on taking the training or not. So I don't know what to do at this point. The problem with the Board of Zoning Appeals, technically, according to your zoning ordinance, the appointing governing body may remove a member for cause by majority vote of the town council upon written charges and after public hearing. So you would have to have written charges of why you're removing the person from that board, and then have a public hearing before you can actually vote to remove that person from the Board of Zoning Appeals. Unless, or if they just resign, then that's it. Their expiration in terms of term would be at the end of this year of 2024.
I'd rather not remove anyone. I'd like to keep them on if they want to continue. Maybe give me tonight, unless you want to let us know your intentions, Mr. Bozar. Do you want to continue, or?
That's not. And
I'd love for
it's
you.
not appropriate right now, but it's,
We don't call out people in public, that's not appropriate.
yeah.
How do you wanna do it?
I think you should talk to the individual that you nominated and find out what their intentions are. And if they come to you and explain to you that they want to resign, then you can bring that to the council. Have it on the agenda for a public hearing ahead of time. We can vote to remove this person, and then you can probably put somebody on afterwards.
I've reached out to this individual multiple times. I've had dialogue in terms of conversation by email, and then when it comes to, are you intending to stay on and complete the training? It's silence.
That, I understand, but we didn't have a public hearing about this tonight.
No,
So regardless,
you
we
can't
have
vote
to
on it.
have
I just need to know if that's the intent,
Right,
and if it is.
that's, and we're still doing, what I'm saying is we already know the process, let's just move on. And if that individual wants to be off of that appeals board, then we know to put a public hearing on the next agenda, and we'll know what to do.
Council will have to bring formal charges,
It seems like that may not be
and I
necessary.
need to know if that is the intent, so if we need to go through that process or not. And how long are we gonna give the individual to actually take the classes, or we can move on?
Let's, I think we might be able to handle this by next.
Okay.
Okay. Should have some work, okay, going on the D. Additional work on the backup sanitation truck.
Yes, after the group, or after the company, Carolina International Trucks, did some further work on the truck as is, they have found some additional things, it's the last 4 items on their quote, that need to be fixed, otherwise we will not pass DOT inspections. So y'all had approved prior that I believe it's around $17,000 on there, or $18,000, and now the total cost. And the final cost from Carolina International Trucks will be $21,348 to complete. One other thing I want to make sure that you are aware, there are 2 tires that need to be replaced. And we're gonna have that done by Snyder as soon as this is done. But I need approval for y'all to increase the amount from before to, if y'all want to approve the $21,000 to fix the backup truck.
Make a motion, we approve the additional work for the backup sanitation truck.
Second.
Motion made and second to approve that, final figure, any questions? All in favor? All opposed?
I've included the proposed plans for town hall improvement. I need